make some kind of noise, however faint, and this one made none at all, not even when it passed almost directly overhead. Man-made prototype using some new, quieter form of propulsion technology. Or something that has no business being in our airspace at all. I want your honest gut reaction in the comments, no overthinking it. Clouds get strange too, and one of the odder examples comes from the English countryside back in 2022. A father out walking with his kids near a tree line noticed the clouds overhead weren't behaving the way clouds normally do. Instead of the usual soft, uneven edges that drift and blur into each other.
So I'm generally tripping out right now because I'm looking up and I see this thing that looks like the moon, but it's moving. I swear it's moving. Y'all let me know. Look at this. Look at it right here. The moon's moving. No way. What? No, that's not the moon, Fat. That's not the moon. No way. How?
One formation had crisp, straight lines on all four sides, like someone had taken a ruler to the sky and traced out a perfect square from multiple angles caught on video as the family circled around for a better look. The shape held its geometry rather than dissolving the way clouds typically do in even a light wind, which is what first made the father suspicious that something was off. Meteorologists have pointed to rare formations called fallstreak holes or lenticular clouds as natural explanations for oddly symmetrical shapes in the sky, phenomena that, while unusual, are well documented and photographed fairly often. But this one, according to people who've studied cloud formations for years and reviewed the footage afterward, doesn't fit neatly into any of those known categories, mostly because of how sharply defined and consistent the edges remained for the several minutes it stayed visible. Engineered camouflage hiding something underneath, or just an unusually cooperative afternoon for cloud physics. You decide and let me know your answer below, and if any of you have a background in meteorology, I'd love to hear a more technical take too. Now here's a clip that only surfaced very recently. So recently that most of the usual analysis channels haven't gotten to it yet. Filmed in Argentina at the start of July, a resident noticed a smooth metallic sphere hovering just outside his apartment window, close enough that he said he could make out a faint reflection of the street below on its surface. He described it as almost motionless at first, just sitting there in the air the way a balloon might if there were no wind at all. Then, as he kept filming, it began climbing steadily upward until it vanished into a cloud bank. What makes this one stand out from typical balloon or drone sightings is the complete lack of any tether, tail, or visible control surface, nothing you'd expect from either a weather balloon or a hobby drone. Reports of similar metallic spheres have popped up in more than one country over recent months, and some people online have started keeping an informal tally. If any of you have seen something similar where you live, I'd genuinely like to know. Drop the details and roughly when it happened. Let's go back a bit further for one of the rarer types of sighting on record, the so-called TR-3B configuration, a triangular black craft shape that's become a recurring feature in UFO folklore. Footage allegedly filmed near Palmyra, Syria back in 2017 shows not one but two triangular objects hovering together, stacked almost directly on top of each other before slowly separating and drifting off in different directions. Both objects show the same faint pulsing lights along their underside that show up in similar reports from other parts of the world, which is part of why this footage gets brought up so often. The visual signature lines up with other supposed TR-3B sightings recorded years apart and continents away, if this is some kind of classified military aircraft. The open, almost casual way it's flown here doesn't match how most nations typically handle experimental hardware. Then again, maybe openness is exactly the point when you want a story to spread without an official confirmation ever being necessary. Back to something a little more residential now. In a quiet Greek neighborhood in the spring of 2022, a man stepped outside after hearing his neighbor shouting and pointing at the sky. What they caught on camera together is a wide, dark disk gliding low over the rooftops, close enough to make out a slight ripple of distortion around its edges, almost like heat rising off pavement. No engine noise, no navigation lights, nothing that would identify it as a plane, helicopter, or drone. Both men can be heard on the recording, half laughing and half panicking, trying to process what they were watching in real time. Skeptics who've reviewed the footage since have suggested it might be a reflection trick caused by a drone camera and window glass, while others insist the shadow it casts on the street below moves independently of the light source, which would be very hard to fake. What's your read on this one? A clever bit of light and glass? Or something that actually doesn't belong there? And finally, the clip I promised you at the start, the one that even our most stubborn skeptics in the community couldn't fully explain away no matter how many angles they tried. This one is older, likely filmed sometime in the 2010s based on the video quality and file format, and the origin is murky at best, no confirmed location, no confirmed date. Just a grainy clip that resurfaces every so often on forums dedicated to unexplained phenomena, usually accompanied by a fresh wave of debate each time. It shows something emerging from the shallow edge of a forest lake at dusk. A dark, jointed shape that moves with an unsettling, almost mechanical rhythm, more like a crab or spider than anything organic we'd typically recognize from that environment. The water around it seems to ripple in a pattern that doesn't quite match natural currents or the movement of the creature itself, almost as if something beneath the surface were reacting independently. The poor quality of the recording only makes the outline harder to pin down the longer you stare at it, and slowing the footage down, frame by frame, which plenty of people online have tried. Doesn't clear things up much either. Nobody has ever come forward claiming to have filmed it, and no follow-up footage from the same location has ever surfaced despite years of people searching for it. Some say it's an old, heavily degraded hoax that's simply been recycled and re-uploaded for years, passed around so many times that its true origin got lost along the way. Others say the reason nobody's come forward is a lot simpler and a lot less comforting than that. So that's the list for tonight, though I've got a feeling this won't be the last time we come back to some of these. Out of everything we just went through, which one actually stuck with you? Was it the moon that wouldn't sit still? The glowing water off the Norwegian coast, the silent triangles over Syria? Or that thing crawling out of the lake? I'd genuinely love to hear your personal ranking in the comments, top to bottom. And don't be shy about telling me which one you think is the most obvious fake sometimes. Those conversations end up more interesting than the sightings themselves. If you've got footage of your own sitting on an old phone somewhere, half forgotten in a folder you haven't opened in years, this is exactly the kind of place to finally share it. You'd be surprised how many of tonight's clips started out exactly that way, something somebody almost didn't bother uploading. And if you've ever hesitated to say anything because you were worried, people would laugh, I promise you. This comment section is a judgment-free zone. Some of the best leads we've ever covered came from people who almost talked themselves out of posting. If tonight's rundown kept you curious, or even just a little unsettled, stick around, because there's always another stack of unexplained clips waiting to be gone through. And honestly, I'd rather go through them with all of you than sit here talking to myself. Let me know down below if you want more deep dives into any particular region or type of sighting, triangular craft, orbs, cloud anomalies, whatever keeps you up at night. I want to hear it. Take care of yourselves, keep watching the sky, and keep an eye on the water too, apparently, and I'll see you in the next one.